In a conversation about faith with a skeptic, they may say,
Get away from me, humans! And how did you get into my house? I am self-isolating. I mean, I'm always doing that, but now I get to pretend to be normal. There's definitely a joke in there somewhere about doing it before it was cool, but then I might have to stop doing it, and then I could end up talking to people, and doing a poorly stroke deaded. And I really, really, really don't want to end up talking to people. That would be the worst.
I can't make myself believe something if there's no evidence. And there's no evidence God exists. What would you say?
Something stupid, I imagine, going off this frankly wonderful channel's asinine content. But hey, at least the videos look good, so I don't have to complain about that. Or at least I don't get to complain about that. Sometimes I like complaining about that, because it lets me pretend my content isn't one step above an angry man on the street corner shouting over a megaphone whilst wearing a paper mask of David Hasselhoff.
Evidence comes in different forms. Imagine you returned home from a night out.
Okay, let me just get into character of me coming in from the night out. Hey boys, I am just so drunk, I'm gonna go and get some whoa!
To find the kitchen garbage turned over, trash strewn about, and your shoes chewed up.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't notice when I got in, and I would automatically assume that I was the one who did it while I was smashed after I eventually woke up some days later. Especially the shoes. I am hungry and stupid when I am blitzed.
Meanwhile, your dog is sleeping quietly in the other room.
It wouldn't be after I got in. Do you know how loud I snore?
There are some things you know and some things you don't know.
I mean, there is plenty that I do not know, but I would be willing to bet that you would beat me handily in a not knowing things contest, and I would have to tip my hat to your ignorance.
Unfortunately, you never set up your surveillance camera, so you don't have any direct evidence.
Except for the fact that you know the dog exists. I mean, we all know where you're going with this, and again, let me make it really clear, your dog is real, and I assume known for this kind of destruction, or even if it's not specifically, dogs are known to demonstrably have done that kind of thing. So let's keep that in mind before we make some assertions about reality, shall we?
But everything you see suggests that your dog misbehaved before falling asleep.
Everything we see, including seeing a dog, which exists, and isn't, say, a ghost dog, or a spirit dog, or a jinn dog, or any other kind of dog-related supernatural being. In fact, if you don't have a dog, you might have a more interesting premise, / something to really worry about.
Is it possible that your neighbor came over and messed up your house?
Well, not really. My neighbour is a 97-year-old wheelchair-bound, dementia-riddled ex-dentist who has various doctorates and degrees. Well, I say he used to have various of them. On an unrelated note, does anyone want to buy a slightly used medical licence? It's a bit damaged because the previous owner wouldn't let go until I broke his fingers. Such a nice fellow.
Yes, but unless you have an unusual neighbor...
He just kept falling down those stairs when someone used to play Skittles and he was the bowling ball. A tragic accident that was no one's fault. I think you'll agree.
It's not going to be the best explanation.
But I can tell you what the worst would be. Something akin to a flying spaghetti monster did it.
Now, if we look for the best explanation for the world we live in, here's what we find.
If it's not a child's science textbook, I'm going to be extremely not surprised. Because I know what I'm responding to here, and pattern recognition is the thing.
First, God is the best explanation of the origin of the universe.
Well, stamp my head with a shocked face. So the universe is the messy room and God is the dog. Haha, get it? 'Cause dog is God spelled backwards. Clever. Anyway, in that comparison, dog/neighbour isn't your only choice. Because there are a lot of dogs, and other people have their own personal dog. It could be any of those as well, and it could be any of your neighbours, countless ne'er-do-wells, and a number of different natural disasters. Also, it happens that you don't have a dog.
In the past, it was believed that the universe was eternal. But today, theists and atheists alike agree that there was a beginning when matter, energy, space, and time came into being.
Agree? No, they don't necessarily agree to that at all. Any knowledgeable enough on the Big Bang atheist will tell you that there was an expansion of matter when the Big Bang started, but what happened before that is still somewhat of a mystery. That it came into being? I couldn't tell you that it came into being, or that it was a singularity, or there is a hole at the beginning of the universe pooping matter and time into space, the same space that it is also pooping out. Or perhaps even something that we haven't conceived of yet. So again, no. Many wouldn't agree to that at all.
Denying a creator, atheists are required to believe that everything we see came out of nothing.
Nope. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what you are required to believe. God made it from nothingness. Just because he made it doesn't mean that anything was there before, and it is very much implied that he magicked it all into existence. Again, we don't actually know. We have a few somewhat similarly likely hypotheses, but nothing that the evidence points to en masse yet, as far as I'm aware. We might be close, but close is still a relative term.
Experience and science tell us that something can't come from nothing.
Look, don't pretend you know how to science, and that you've had any experiences that aren't you shaking a Bible like a belligerent relative at a wedding who won't stop asking you when you're going to meet a nice girl shakes your confidence. Because, of course, that's not going to happen because of the said Bible shaking.
We have never seen it happen. But here we are.
Does anyone else want to tell him, or should I? Dude, if that's your argument, you might want to, I don't know, maybe retract it. Because it's a perfect refutation of your position. Not only on this matter, but a number of other things. Only you don't have evidence that you can draw inferences on to back up the things that you haven't seen for yourself. Just pretend you didn't say it, and we can all avoid this embarrassment, can't we?
What's the best explanation?
Something stupid, I'd imagine.
That something came from nothing? Or that something outside our universe caused the universe to exist?
Why does that something have to necessarily be a creator, or even something with a mind at all? There could very well be a process beyond our universe that caused the universe to be, without any reason for it, other than making universes is what it happens to do, for whatever reason, whether on purpose or not. And hell, even if an intelligent being beyond our current understanding exists, it could very well be a scientist in a lab starting universes by accident, or even if it is in fact a godlike creature with godlike properties, what in the name of oogly boogly makes you think it's your interpretation of God? So what's the best explanation? You don't know. I don't know. Not a single person on the planet knows. That's it. Finito.
In any other context, we recognize that something can't come from nothing.
But in my context, God makes something come from nothing. What do you mean, that's a contradiction? Your mum's a contradiction. Everyone says she's a hoe, but she won't even do the sex on me. No one will.
We should in this context as well. A creator is the best explanation for the fact that the universe exists at all.
So basically, because dogs are real, you can see, touch, smell them, etc., and are known to mess up homes, I should conclude that gods are real, even though I cannot touch, smell, etc., etc., and that they make universes, even though, again, there's no evidence that they've ever caused a universe. Not even close. And you have more of these points. Okay. Let's continue.
Second, God is the best explanation for the fine-tuned universe.
Wow, okay, we're just going to jump right to the assertions, are we? How do you know the universe is fine-tuned? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know why you think that, because you exist, therefore it must have been made for you. Don't you think that's a little bit arrogant? I mean, I don't think this whiskey was made for me specifically, even though it so perfectly makes me drunk and tastes like happy. In fact, I know it wasn't made for me. It was made for my dentist neighbour's funeral, but mysteriously disappeared before the event took place. It's one of life's great conundrums.
Not only does the universe exist, but it contains a delicate balance of conditions that not only allow matter to exist, but life to be possible.
My main problem with fine-tuning always comes down to that somehow things existing, life in particular, is the way it's supposed to be, that life is somehow necessary and that the universe makes no sense without it. But I would argue that life is completely unnecessary for the universe to carry on without us, considering that the universe is so hostile to life in general. As I see it, life exists in spite of the universe, not because of it. And I exist to spite the universe and my dead whiskey-less neighbour.
From the strength of gravity, to the size of the moon, to the tilt of the earth, hundreds of conditions had to be just perfect at exactly the same time for life on Earth to be possible.
Perfect. The moon is moving away from us. Gravity varies at different points on the planet, as well as the weather from bitter cold to scorching heat. So tell me, which one of these is perfect? The only reason that life managed to happen in these perfect, fluctuating conditions is that the scenarios for life to begin would likely have happened over and over and over and over again, countless times, until it finally clicked. Seems awfully scattershot for a divine being if you asked me. Had I been a perfect god who did things perfectly and wanted life to happen, I might have chosen a less insanely unlikely to happen approach. Then again, if I were a god, I wouldn't want to create humans anyway. You're all far too much trouble than you are worth.
Now, what's the best explanation for this fine-tuned environment?
Something stupid, I'd imagine.
No one looks at a watch and assumes it was created by an explosion at a watch factory.
Ew, the watchmaker argument, gross. Couldn't you come up with a new non-debunked argument for crying out loud? I literally covered the same basic argument not more than a few weeks ago, from a video that was made more than a decade ago, if not way longer. Fine, say it again.
No one looks at a watch and assumes it was created by an explosion at a watch factory.
Okay, why was there a watch factory in the first place? It's almost as if we have facilities for creating watches, so we know that watches are created. Otherwise, why the hell would there be factories designed to do that? Oh yeah, it's because people do that. And are you seriously trying to suggest that there are universe factories? And if yes, I'm totally stealing that idea for a fantasy novel that I will never write.
No one sees graffiti on a wall and assumes a paint truck was involved in an accident.
Well, at least that's a newer version of it, but again, we know that graffiti is something that gets made by people. You can see them do it. You can do it yourself. Why don't you, I don't know, go and make a universe? If you can do that, I will totally listen to your God-made-it claim. I mean, I'll have headphones on playing loud music, but I will totally be listening, honest.
When we see evidence of design, we assume there was a designer, because logic and experience tell us that order doesn't come from disorder.
Actually, that's wrong. And I think I've done this one before, but it's so elegant that I rather like it. Get a round table and an F-ton of sand. 1 F-ton to be precise. This is doing a science after all. And very slowly pour the sand onto the table. The sand will fall wherever it wants. Much of it will fall off the table. It will be chaos. But over time, the sand will begin to form up. Pieces will lock together and you will begin to witness a miracle. The sand will form a perfect little hill that perfectly fits the table. Almost like it was made for it, fine-tuned if you will. And if you knock it off and do it again, it will create a near-identical hill. Over and over you will get the same thing, the same ordered structure from the chaotic pouring. Spoopy.
Do coincidences happen? Yes, but not hundreds or millions of them at exactly the same time.
Well, it's a good job that in no way reflects how the universe came to be as it is now, you colossal buffoon.
If you want to believe God doesn't exist, you will find a reason.
It's funny because that sounds exactly like how I would say the opposite. If you want to believe God does and exist, you will find a reason.
If you want to believe God doesn't exist, you will find a reason.
It's like you made this video just for me. Like it was fine-tuned for my sense of humour and snarky commentary.
You might also convince yourself that your neighbor, and not your dog, messed up your house.
Well, then you would be an idiot, wouldn't you? In fact, isn't that what you believe? Let's assume that you have never met your neighbour, but you've definitely met your dog. Well, you can prove your dog exists and that it does messes. Your neighbour may very well not exist and you have never seen him mess up your kitchen. Swap dog for nature and neighbour for God. And you just snapped your own argument into tiny little pieces. Amazing.
But that doesn't make it the best explanation for what you know.
No, it doesn't. And I'm glad to see that you agree that God is a poor explanation for the universe.
Let's review.
Let's not and say we did. Bye! Guys, don't forget to panic buy sick brand merch. What if you need to let people know that you are handsome, famous and good at the sex in a variety of tasteful colours? Buy as many as you can afford now before this thing that's printed to order runs out. Also, you can use it as toilet paper if needs be. You never know when you're going to need to wipe your ass.